How's it going, everyone? John here again with Spirit Talk, and today we are fortunate to welcome, for me personally, one of my favorite character actors, I guess you could say, Michael Berryman. If you don't know who he is, you probably haven't seen a plethora of horror movies from Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2. His role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Guyver, Weird Science, Double Dragon, Devil's Rejects. He's always that guy in a movie that makes that movie that much better, even if he's on there for a split second. It's just amazing to have you on here, Michael.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be on board. I hope everybody that sees this is doing well, staying safe, and just do the right thing, be smart. We'll get through this together. But yeah, thank you for the nice words. I always try to make my character real. Play each role a little differently, and internalize it. And then. Well, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I had some wonderful mentors. I think when I did Cuckoo's Nest, I remember I was there for 127 days, and we were filming it in a real Oregon State Hospital. We had a whole building and wing to ourselves. We spent 2 weeks each day. We each had to spend at least an hour with a different type of patient, from geriatric to criminally insane, actually. I mean, that's how they called it. And it was an amazing experience. My father was a neurologist and brain surgeon. He was in the Navy. He was attached to the 333 Marines, and he was in the South Pacific. And then when he came back home, he had a practice, and then he contracted polio and couldn't do surgery anymore. He became one of the top specialists with EEGs, echoencephalogram, and neurological protocols all over he was like tops in the Western Hemisphere. With your background and my father's background, and also I have a lot of contacts that have worked in the same field that you have.
Yep.
I remember when I was at home, I was probably, I don't know, 12, 14 years old, roughly. And I remember someone knocking at the door, and I opened the front door, and there was a gentleman wearing a black suit with a wire behind his ear, and another hefty gentleman, they're wearing out body armor. And he was standing by a Lincoln Town Car, and they were very polite and professional. And my dad grabbed his medical bag and took off, and they flew him to Dallas for the Kennedy situation. And then also when Bobby was shot, and the third time they came was when he was to examine what had happened to Marilyn Monroe. And on his death, before he died, he told me how she was murdered.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fascinating. Now, growing up, did that kind of help your dad talking, or even knowing he was involved in these type of cases? Did that help kind of lead you towards that, where you kind of found that niche in the horror, like thriller genre? Or how did you that's a lot of stuff. That's heavy for a lot of kids to deal with.
Yeah. As a kid, I was, okay, I had craniectomy when I was like 4 years old, and I had that one haircut. I explain all this in my book. I'm almost done with it. It's called It's All Good. We'll be getting the word out. That's why I'll be letting you know to spread the word, and also on my
I love it.
Website, etc. My mother was a nurse, and I have a great aunt and my sister. They were all nurses, and my grandmother's father was a very renowned surgeon and doctor from Germany. Graduated from 3 universities: Heidelberg, Vienna, and Madrid. And in North Dakota, before statehood, his neighbors were the Mayo family, so they all kind of, they made medicines from the Native Americans, helped them know about what herbs and plants and roots and stuff, and the more potent ones are along the edges of our rivers where we want them to flood. Of course, modern farming methods changed all that with chemicals and dams, and then the silt's not deposited. And I learned in grammar school that, the Nile River silt, you want it to flood. You don't build houses where it's going to flood. You want it to flood. Why? Because the silt has trace minerals, and the trace minerals are what you want in your diet. Why? Because those are the things that the Creator put on the planet to put in our bodies. So our bodies that are amazing can heal. We can heal ourselves, so much so. And there's all kinds of conspiracy theories or theories or lectures.
Right.
The bottom line is study real medicine, and you can help yourself and your loved ones to have a nice, long, healthy life. So aside from that, my father would go on house calls. Back in the day, they actually made house calls, and I would travel with him. And very, very often he would tell me about a particular patient he was seeing and what their situation was and whether they could get better or not. So he opened up my eyes to the real world, science, and it was very, very beneficial. It served me well over the years.
I did some reading on other interviews and stuff. One of the things you hit on is the concept of bullying and dealing with these type of people as you're growing up. Now, it must say a lot about your character that you didn't lash out. You're able to kind of harness this mentality towards you, because growing up you were different, but you use that in a positive light, where it's very inspirational to others. And I've talked to guys who've lost their legs and women in the military, the war, and they come back, people are going to stare at me, or they get third-degree burns. And it's like, these people are able to, people like yourself are able to find the good and be who you are, be true to yourself. And how are you able to kind of do that as you grew up to kind of harness this type of?
It's a great question. I had a grandmother, my mother's mother. Her name is Sophie. She was like my mentor. I would spend a lot of time at her house, and she would tell a lot of stories about family life. And she was very centered. Her husband was Swedish, very calm and matter of fact, not strict, but just chill. I think the most important aspect in this query is straight up honesty. It's like, just the facts, man. It's just the facts. And that gives you some tools to where you're not second guessing. And there are people that are mean. There are people that maybe don't understand, and they'll point and stare. So yeah, as a kid, I saw the whole range from, oh wow, you okay? Oh, were you burned? Oh, you're a creep. Oh, you're scary, or this or that, or they make a bad joke, or to try to harass you. And my father taught a lot of lessons, and one of them was, for instance, we'd be driving in the car, and he'd say, I've done a lot of autopsies, never found the soul. Where do you think it is? He would throw these zingers out to me, and I was very young. I was maybe 10, as far back as I can remember, when I had these types of conversations. My grandmother, the same thing, a lot of wisdom, a lot of honesty. Kids are a lot more observant and aware than most grown-ups give them credit for. Sometimes we want to, overprotect them and hide certain things, but they do process information and what they take in sight and hearing. So yes, I had a friend when I was very young in grammar school. He had polio. He walked with metal braces, and he walked kind of funny, different. And I had a very fiery temper. Let me get rid of this.
I like it.
So I would, someone tripped my friend with polio, and I helped him get up, and I ran over. Instead of messing with the kid, I went to the parents. I said, "You're really bad parents. Look at this mean activity from your child. You're not teaching them what they need to know." As I got older, occasionally I'd get in a fight, but basically it's like be smart enough to realize that the words aren't going to change them, and so I exit the situation. If I have no other option, then that's a different situation. But the philosophy of getting to know who you are, that's the road everybody travels. And that is the main thrust of my book.
I love that.
How all that whole process came about, what influences there were, how we continue to learn what gifts and blessings come along, in your day-to-day life. So
How did you come to the conclusion that you needed to write this book? Was that something that's kind of, I mean, obviously being in front of the camera is one thing, but writing is a whole other piece of art. Was there any trepidation on your part, kind of telling your story that you don't think the people don't know?
No, I've done a lot of interviews. I talk with friends and fans at conventions. The information in the book is very personal. It's from the point of view of this. There's a picture of me before my haircut. I had curly hair as a little kid. He's got a little bow tie and he's smiling. It's called "It's All Good." So I introduced the reader into the mind and the mindset of this young child with the influences that are explained in his situation. And it's from the point of view, you're in that comfortable chair and you ride through this kid's experiences. It ends with Cuckoo's Nest and then Hills Have Eyes. It's not about the movies that I made. I have been very blessed, but when I did wind up getting into acting, it's not something I wanted to do. I wanted to homestead in Alaska, but it's something that came about, and I said, well, maybe this will help, and then one thing led to another. But I met some wonderful, wonderful people, like Michael Landon, for instance, and I got to be on Highway to Heaven. And Michael, he was very straightforward. Little Joe, he could have just retired with that, but he went on to do a Highway, and he also did a movie of the week, his own true story. He was a bedwetter. His mother would embarrass him, and he was a long distance runner, and he became a long distance runner because he wanted to run home and not take the bus and cut through fields and backyards so he could take the sheets off the second story landing that his mother would put out there to embarrass him. Because that was her motivation to get him to stop. But it was a medical problem, you see. So, I mean, he didn't have to tell that story, but he did. And we actually at lunch one day we discussed that, and I was very intrigued with his mindset, and then. He introduced me to some other people and other actors. Michael Landon was one of the first producers to hire a lot of people with handicaps or disabilities,
oh, wow.
so to speak. And there were some people on Highway to Heaven that were returning special guest stars. And then through, Anthony Zerbe, who played as the partner to the angel, he told me that he had that gruff exterior, and he said in acting and TV shows, etc., he was always the bad guy, the horrible person, the rapist, the murderer, and he wanted to get roles where he could be a good guy. And I was having lunch with him and his son, who was stand-in, and Michael Landon, and he just shared the truth. He said, look, he says, I was becoming very depressed by not getting roles that I knew I could play. And I'm just not this horrible person, but that's the only roles I get. And he was drinking quite heavily, and he was very depressed about it. And he shared this, he had a conversation with Michael Landon, and Michael said, well, how would you like to be on a TV show where you're the sidekick to an angel? It changed his life.
Thank you. Right.
So the random acts of kindness, and of course he had the chops to do the work, but it's easier and better results if we work together as opposed to pointing out our differences.
I think growing up, I mean, I still collect VHS. I've always loved the idea.
I have a lot of VHS.
And I always loved the idea of just going to the old rental stores and just renting movies going through. But the one, props to whoever the Hills Have Eyes, the artist was for the VHS, the original cover, but seeing your face on there, that's kind of what drew me into the movie. I must have worn that movie out every other Tuesday, renting it out. And whenever, it just made me, it's just like, I kind of resonated. It's the first time I resonated with I guess you would say your character's Pluto was a bad guy, but he was bad because he was misunderstood, and everything going on in the world caused him to be this person. So is it, for that type of role for you, is it tough to balance that type of, yeah, this is a guy that's going to be an evil guy, but he's not evil, but you portrayed
Right.
it like it was a perfect.
Right. I get your drift on that. Well, we were a family of cannibals,
Right.
and we couldn't go shopping, and any animal, including humans, was fair game. That's pretty much the deal. The theme of the movie Wes Craven was trying to present was that at the end, the white bread family, as we call them, we all became very good friends for forever. They had to they had to defend themselves. They had to kill or be killed or be eaten. So it was a social commentary. Now, there was a guy named Morton Downey Jr. who had his talk show, and we were invited to go out and tape a show with him. And there was a lady that was in a group that wanted to censor horror movies or things of that nature.
Yep.
And she actually wanted to prosecute people that produced and took part in these types of stories. And I had a chance to talk, on screen, and I said, well, there are limits to what I will portray. I've had scripts that I says I'll go this far. I won't do that. That can be implied.
Right.
There are certain things that are just obviously tasteless and unnecessary. Actually, I'd like to tell a story, and I said, look, you need a strong protagonist, so when the hero rises to the occasion, they've actually push themselves beyond what they thought they were capable of. So that's part of the story, that's part of the lesson to be learned. So I don't have a problem playing the bad guy, and I've been in Motley Crue rock and roll videos, Queen Latifah video. I've done comedy with Weird Science.
I thought your role in Double Dragon was it. I remember watching the movie a lot. Again, I watched it on the episode probably of the week. And I'm like, when you came on, I'm like, you're just that guy you're always that character that just makes whatever scene that much better. And I don't know if it's because everyone knows who you are, I guess, but it's just very fascinating because that's the best part of the movie. I mean, that by hands down, you're the best part of that movie.
Well, thank you. It was fun. I mean, I actually shot that on a green screen, and the director was telling me what I'm supposed to be seeing and fighting and whatnot, which is a lot of fun. Wow. Let me see like in Weird Science. I mean,
the mute biker.
Okay, we're a threat, but then John Hughes says, what if these kids are brats all during the week, and these guys have a magical moment where they can kind of get back at them. What if he's a school teacher? And so we made that line up like about 1 minute before we shot it.
How fascinating for you is it that you can work with someone like from Wes Craven to John Hughes and then Rob Zombie? Like, you're looking at a wide spectrum of directors that respect you as an actor, but it must be very fascinating for you when you kind of can look back one day and just be like, man, I've worked with all these great directors.
It's been a blessing. Probably one of the most intriguing. Well, Rogero Deodato, we always go to someplace exciting. We've been to the Amazon down in Guyana. Richard Lynch, who's sort of a very complex person. I don't know if you know why he had the burns on his body.
I did not know.
Richard Lynch is a very powerful actor, and he was one of the leading men, very handsome fella. Very manly, just a super wonderful person. And he was so upset with our involvement in Southeast Asia. And it was just tearing him up inside that, a lot of innocent villagers and just people that lived in those areas, Cambodia and Thailand, all those areas, were just caught up in a whirlwind of geopolitical crap. And I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of war.
Right. No one should be.
So he was in Toronto, and he went to a public square and had them roll film, and he's called the news stations and said, "I am an actor, and I am a citizen of the world, and I would like to offer my body as my way of saying I'm sorry to what my country is doing to the people
Wow.
in this area." He was on LSD at the time and set himself on fire, and he lived.
Jeez.
No, that's a gentleman who, I mean, he was one of the kindest, most philosophical, deep-seated friends that I had the blessings to meet. He was a very amazing person. Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, a lot of people wonder, why I don't have hair. Well, I had to have a craniectomy. It's just short and sweet. My dad went on a secret mission. He was a neurologist, and they sent him to Hiroshima.
Wow. After the explosion.
After they dropped the bomb.
Yep.
Before I was born, and so he was radiated. He was at ground zero. I have a photograph which I will never share with anyone other than if you happen to be home, and there it is.
Right.
Pictures. He was not supposed to take photographs, but there was a wall that he took pictures of, and there was black shadows of vaporized human beings infused into concrete wall.
Wow.
I'm not a fan of splitting the atom. There's a lot of other ways to turn on a light bulb, and I'll just come straight to the chase. You put my family in jeopardy, all bets are off. But if you want to send my children to go to some other zip code, so the masters of war that sell the munitions to both sides and every side and fund these conflicts, I'm sorry, the leader should be in a cage in a box with rocks and bricks, and we'll watch it on pay-per-view and have a cold one.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm not a bit. I'm all for protection of the innocent, but I'm not a fan of rah rah rah. Let's go, fire up the cannons and everything else. I was in ROTC. I was in ROTC for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I was reloading. I had an NRA card when I was 10. My sergeant major in ROTC was Sergeant Major Meehan. He taught military history. He was one of the original 10 Green Berets.
Wow.
Yeah, so I learned. You give me a Garand and a sling, and I'll drop them right where you want them.
I love that.
It's wonderful ordnance. I like shooting it.
On the Devil's Rejects, like I think Rob Zombie does an awesome job not bring it back, but working with people like yourself, Ken Forty, Meg Foster, all these legends. How much fun was it for you to kind of film a movie like that, where it's like all these guys that you kind of hang out with at the conventions and people adore, just to have fun? Like, do you have control over that character? Or is Rob like, hey, Michael, put this outfit on if you like it, have fun with this character?
That's pretty much his approach. He gives you a basic sketch. I mean, just by reading the script through action and scenes, so you can get an idea of what is required, for the arc, for the various components of the story that they're telling. And he would be at the monitor watching, and we would just sort of go for it, and he would be nodding his head like, yeah. And it's a delight to work with such talented people that have so much history and chops, so to speak. And it's all one big giant family. The conventions are great in the same manner. We see people that we've worked with in the past, and it's a great community. The horror conventions are just, I find them quite delightful, and to see fans that you've met 20, 30 years ago, and now their kids are growing up and they have their kids there, and conventions are a lot of fun.
Now, you mentioned your fans, and obviously to have that type of respect, mutual respect towards your fan and yourself and vice versa, but it must be a true testament to yourself that you actually you portrayed characters and did work that really resonated with people, and for them to to just want to take a picture with you or just get your autograph. I mean, that's got to be such a cool feeling.
Well, it really is. It's full circle from where I was as a kid to how
Right.
where I wound up. In my book, I explain the serendipity of an event that took place that put me in a position, zip code wise, that just allowed an opportunity to arrive right right in front of me, and I go, wow, oh, okay. And it's a pretty fascinating tale. Um, let's see what else.
One of the one of the things I was curious about, like one of the main reasons why to reach out is because, in that sense, you have this love of conservation and the environment, which is awesome. But you also spent almost a decade on a wolf sanctuary. Now, how did that come about? Like, just tell me about that. What that's like.
Sure. Well, I had 2 years of pre-veterinary science at the University of California, San Luis Obispo, and I've always been around dogs and cats and had pets. And at the time, I was pretty dirt poor, and I found a place to rent for like $90 a month out in the high desert. And
Yep.
it's a little tiny in Lucerne Valley, not much to it. And there was a gal there that Tanya Carloni had the sanctuary, and it's for people that have wolves illegally, and they either have to be put down or they need a place to be, to live out their lives. So I wound up kind of caretaking there, and then if I had a job, I could. We became very, very good friends, and clean the cages. Certain wolves, you have to learn their behavior, which ones you can hang with, which ones have been abused or whatever. I wanted to be a veterinarian, so but my fingers are, I just don't have the dexterity to do that, and I ran out of money and did other things. But I've always been involved in the natural world, so to speak. I love science. When I was a young teenager, I signed up to the Smithsonian Institute. They put out a pamphlet and an article. I'm sure it's online now. It's called Sea Secrets. It's through the Smithsonian. I was a scuba diver. I was trained Naui diver, and
you do it all.
When I was a sophomore in high school, and used to do a buddy of mine, and we went to college together. He was my dive partner. I've dove all up and down the coast from Oregon to San Diego, and so when you're in the ocean and there's a fish and there's you and the touch, everything moves at the same distance. It's really quite remarkable. And then you can identify changes like in water temperature. Scallops have like disappeared. There is such a thing as science. The earth is warming, and a lot of it is because of our footprint, so to speak. And the changes to reverse take decades. So it's good to teach kids appreciation. Get out of the house, go for a walk in the woods, learn, be aware, collect plants, learn about them. All of that stuff is really, really important.
It's amazing how this all goes back to Hills Have Eyes, where you were, from the beginning, you've always been this environmental guy. And to play a character that was affected by nuclear fallout, all this crazy environmental destruction. Now here you are, because they're trying to preserve the environment, helping these animals. It's kind of cool that you actually, like, it's just very fascinating, Michael. Like, it's just a very cool, inspiring story you have.
Well, thank you. It's something that the natural world. We've been very blessed with a Class 9 blue planet, and it's kind of beautiful. Yep. I remember I was at a convention. I think it was at Atlanta. I'm not sure. And I was walking through the underground parking area to go into the lobby, and there was a lady wearing. She looked like a scientist, and she had a white smock on, and she had a hand cart with all these white boxes with pictures in them. Yeah, quite a few. So I was, bringing that in with her into the lobby. She's getting checked in, and we had a conversation. I said, "So what do you do?" She goes, "She does imaging for the Hubble Hubble telescope, and she says all of these photos I have are free. They're paid
Wow.
taxpayer dollars, and I'm going to hand them out. And she gave me a couple of them. I still have them. I mean, Crab nebulas, the whole 9 yards. And then, of course, the most powerful image that I remember as a child was the first image of Earth from outer space. And that should make you humble. That should make you proud. That's your home. I mean, we're supposed to be from, you know, the breath of life into dust to dust. All of that stuff that we learn, and it's not trivial. It's something to make us humble and aware and poignant and appreciative. Appreciation is one of my favorite words. If something's affecting you and you can't find a way to settle into it, then maybe you need to put it aside or reassess how you're approaching it. It's like what is it? You're not obligated to accept negative gifts. I came up with that years. It's not an obligation to accept negative gifts.
Do you follow everything going on right now with like Tesla and SpaceX and Mars? Like, is that stuff blowing your mind?
What Tesla is very fascinating. As a matter of fact, when I was living in Santa Monica, our garage faced another garage, and the gentleman in that garage, our neighbor, had a laboratory in there.
Wow.
And he developed the parabolic dish. He was Thomas Edison's lab assistant. He taught physics at UCLA. So anytime I had a science project, I would go over with him with the formula and whatnot. We would do the math, then we'd do a practical experiment. So science is pretty darn cool. I like science. It's a tool, and it's powerful information. It's how we use our tools to what end. Back in the movie The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman, the guy says he's graduated and he's at the party, he's all confused.
Yep.
Plastics bin. Well, I was a diver for years and years and years, and I start seeing the pollution in the ocean, and it's tremendously disturbing to know that there are confluences of tidal streams in the ocean where it's just the size of Nevada, and it's just all plastic. And people go, out of sight, out of mind. No, I don't think so. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually, it grinds down. Now it's in the food chain. I mean, really? I mean,
fascinating.
I know people that used to get into arguments with us because they go, they'd throw out some stupid, oh, you're a dumb hippie, tree hugger, whatever. I says, okay, if you can't understand the importance of not trashing your own home or your planet, recycling is a good thing. Maybe you should see a movie called, I think it's Silent Running.
Okay.
It's about a spaceship. I think it's Silent Running. It's a spaceship and it's the last forest on Earth.
Oh, wow.
And Earth has become so polluted and damaged. They're trying to get. They're saying, okay, we're gonna end this program. So you, as Bruce Dern is alone on this ship, and there's a couple of robots that roll along and they take care of the forest, and he leaves them in charge, and instead of coming back to Earth and rendezvousing alone and blowing it up like they wanted them to, he reprogrammed it to where his robot buddies, and he found a star system with a yellow sun, to where the forest would survive. And I've been to the Amazon, I've been into Guyana, I've been on the Orinoco River and the Caribbean River, and it's the Emerald Forest. There's another good movie to watch, Emerald Forest, with Booth Powers, and his son gets his son gets kidnapped and raised as an indigenous person, and then years later he meets his father again, and of course they're mowing down the rainforest so they can grow cows and
Yeah.
sell burgers. I mean, I was a meat cutter in college. I had a lot of different jobs, and from New Zealand and Argentina, but my Lord, I mean, there are smarter ways to. If you have to have the money, you can get the money, but you don't have the right to cause harm.
I hear you.
Kind of a Hippocratic thing. I mean, so.
I hear you.
But kids, I mean, when we were kids, grown-ups just sort of, kids were invisible. They would say duck and cover. Well, and another wonderful movie by Joe Dante, where it's the one where the kid gets in trouble because the girl gets in trouble because she's not going to duck and cover because she's telling the truth about what happens and won't protect you from a nuclear blast. I forget the name of that movie off the top of my head, but it's a great little flick. When you can put in information and also entertain, it's a really, really cool thing. Now, there's a comedian called Brett Butler, and she does a commentary about Bill Hicks, another genius that has passed too soon. And she says, I'll tell you something really funny, and then I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you uncomfortable, make you think. And then I'm going to let you off the hook and tell you something funny again. And she was commenting about Bill Hicks, and she said, Bill Hicks, he didn't hold anything back. He just put it all out there, but it still make you laugh, and you're laughing, and you're going, I shouldn't be laughing, but the idea is to make it poignant. The idea is to wake you up, because lethargy and just sitting in front of the boob tube eating candy is no life. There's another great short story by Edgar H.G. Wells in his compilation of short stories, and it's called The Machine Stops. And it's post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war. Everybody's living underground. We all have filtered air, blah, blah, blah. Nobody ever goes to the surface. And it's a love story about this guy and this gal, and he works in the archives where nobody goes. I still have a library card. People don't read anymore. They don't know anything about the surface. And when they want something on their TV screen, they push a button, there it is. Well, the machine starts to falter. And he knows where the old tunnels are. It takes you to the surface. So they escape, and there's chaos because everybody's fighting for what food is left, because the machine, and it's chaos. So they make it to the surface, and they go, wow, Garden of Eden, it's beautiful, etc., etc. The only problem is they die in each other's arms because of the dust in the air, and they've lived underground and too sequestered.
I am blown away by your I mean, movies, history, science, poetry, authors. It's kind of blowing my mind how just amazing of a person you are, Michael. And before I let you go,
I can't stay on track.
I'm just blown away by it, because if I'm on a reality TV show and I need a photo friend, I'm calling Michael. He knows everything.
No, I'm just old. I've just done a lot of things.
And you've lived a great life, and it's inspiring. So,
well, thank you.
But before I let you go, you mentioned your book, you're in the process of writing, but obviously COVID obviously affected your industry in terms of TV and movies. But is there any other projects you got coming up that you're looking forward to film, and I know you're on Facebook, but any other social media and stuff like that?
I've got a website, michaelberryman.com, and you can get pictures and some clothing items. I'll be putting the word out to everybody once. In a couple of weeks, I'll have it finished, and I'll send it off to my manager and publisher. And so that's still in the process. In about 2 weeks, I'll have the last pages done. COVID, I finally got my shot.
Love it.
Yeah, that's my wolf tattoo. I got 2 of those. But anyway, yes. Thank you for allowing us to go on different sides of the street, because a lot of a lot of interviews are, right down the IMDb list, and it gets so boring.
Well, it's like I'm always. Here's the thing, and I know we kind of talked about this right before this, but I started this last March, May when COVID first hit because my industry is security. I'm not doing events. I'm not doing tours, protecting celebrities, but I wanted to do something where I can still learn, whether it's human trafficking, about domestic violence, wildlife conservation, martial arts, whatever can fall under this banner of security. And I started realizing there's also a lot of actors and people out there that I might not know like their background or whatever, but I know a character they portrayed that made me want to become who I wanted to be. Whether I wanted to be a good guy, law enforcement, Secret Service, the bad guys you would play, or bad guys someone else would play, or the hero, they would inspire me to do what I want to do. And so I made a list of like 50 people that I would love to have on here within the year. You're on that list, and here we are.
Here we are.
It's very cool, and it's fun to talk to you about. I don't. Here's the thing: I love all your movies. I can talk about Hills of Ice for weeks, or Double Dragon, or X-Files episodes.
There's a couple that are sleeper, like Andrew Gady's movie, The Evil Within, the original title,
right?
Storyteller, which I preferred, but that's a very interesting.
The Guyver's great too.
The Guyver's a lot of fun. And you're right about the security. I actually, to make extra money, work for bail bondsmen. Hey,
that's you kicking down that door.
Suit up, raise your hands, get sworn in, put on all your gear, and here's who we're dealing with. Oh, very interesting. And you were right by the numbers, and I make a couple $100 cash. I came in handy. But yeah, I've seen a lot of things, and
that's awesome.
There's certain street smarts that you learn over time, and depending on your background, and it's always good to learn something new every day.
I love that.
Yeah, and all I can say is stay safe and take care of your loved ones and family. And tomorrow's a brand new day, so make the best of it.
Thank you, Michael. Be safe. We'll talk soon.
Be safe. Thank you very much.
Bye. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk. You might not know this, but before I record an episode, I like to break a sweat. And I do that using the Chop Fit. Over the course of the past year, the Chop Fit has allowed me to lose weight, tone up my body, and feel even more amazing about myself. A feeling that you should all feel about yourselves as well. If you use this code, SpearChop10, you get $10 off your order. Once again, use code SpearChop10 for $10 off your Chop Fit order. It'll change your life. Thank you.